stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Just a reminder, if you're from the general public and you want to speak at public comment, can you sign in on the legal pad up here on the podium? And first item on the agenda is approval of December minutes and January claim docket. I did have, before we get a motion, on the first page, bottom paragraph, first sentence.
The English teacher is telling you something.
Pete reported that Mr. Willard did not object to the Ader ditch project. I just wanted to clarify that. He gave us permission to
Okay.
start working on his property with that. That was my only.
Okay. I'll make the correction.
Very good. Anybody else have any thoughts on the December minutes?
I make a motion that we accept the December minutes and January claim dockets.
Okay, got a first motion?
I'll second.
Got a second motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries. First item on the old business, vacating alley at 4829 Pennsylvania Street. Pete handed us a large packet of information on everything that he's got done. He's got signatures from all the surrounding properties, and so everything's ready to go to Graham for an ordinance now. Any questions on that part? Okay, so we'll have Graham type up the ordinance, and he'll bring that next month, and we'll finalize that part. All right, next item on the agenda, fire and ambulance coverage for the town. So Mr. Butler and
This is the township attorney,
Mr. Bellamy.
Mr. Bellamy.
Bellamy, yep.
Yep. So, so Liberty Township trustee here. Jeff is here to represent the township. If you have any questions in regards to the tax rate, what we need to do moving forward to resolve. Currently, as of January 1, Liberty Township Incorporated Fire Department is now township-owned fire department. They approved that back in May. As Chief Russell, I think, had brought that to the council then. So basically, there's really the contract that you had with FDLT was no more as of January 1. So I guess we just need to figure out what we're going to do for fire and EMS for the town. So if you have any questions, I mean, Jeff can explain to you. If you'd like to have him come up and explain how the taxing rate works. I know there's some questions on taxes and things. I know a few people, Pete has talked to me about that, trying to explain it to him, and maybe Jeff can kind of clear it up, explain it.
I just went back, hey everybody, I'm Jeff Bellamy. I remember several of you. I remember Mr. Bignell, of course, and our conversations up US 40 at Greg and Charlie's office. Brad had indicated that there were questions as to what composes a township's fire levy versus a town's fire levy. So I just pulled a couple quick things just as informational. I'm going to keep this one. My highlight didn't come through. If you want to take one and pass it around, fish them out. This is from the State Board of Accounts Audit Manual. And the piece that's relevant, it doesn't kind of comes through, it kind of doesn't. And I just want everybody to understand on the funds and taxation section. Sorry. It's right here. It just says, each township may levy for each year a tax for the township firefighting fund on all taxable real estate and personal property in the township outside the corporate boundaries of the municipality, subject to all levy limitations. Code site. The township levy is to be at an amount sufficient to pay all costs attributable to fire protection emergency services and are not paid for from other revenues available to the fund. Tax rate and levy shall be established in accordance with procedures set forth in Title VI. And then I know, not that these numbers will be relevant, but that we had to deal with this concept when the territory was under discussion. And this is not Don't anybody say I came down here to try to talk territory. We did that once. But just as a reminder, when the financials of that had to be presented as an estimate, and it's just an excerpt. This is not the whole packet. The whole packet's like this thick. I wanted to not bring the phone book down. But the two things I gave you the cover, and this was the presentation and analysis done by Greg Garitas and Charlie Joyce. I marked, this was Exhibit C, and they do an estimated rate for Clayton, and then he put numeral 1, calculate on page 5. I don't think I pulled page 5. No actual fire tax rate. There is no actual fire tax rate for the town. It's just all in your common general pot. Unlike a township has firefighting fund, general fund, debt fund. What other funds do you have? Oh, public assistance fund. And townships can be limited as to where they can redirect them. We just dealt with this. If you have some excess township assistance funds, then you have some township assistance funds that roll forward. You can't redeploy those. And then also, too, I just pulled that out of the page where they put in estimated Clayton tax rate. So if it helps at all, and I hope it does, because sometimes it blends together, and people will come to me and go, well, my mayor said blah, blah, blah. And I go, I represent a couple cities. I'm more township, territory, district guy. But on this issue, if someone within the town goes to Brad for public assistance, indigent assistance, and burial assistance, that levy applies to the entirety of the township, incorporated and unincorporated. If you find a cemetery, for instance, in an unincorporated area, that would qualify for all the standards. There's a checklist of an abandoned cemetery that the township could care for. He should have revenue for the whole township for that. The municipality, though, for fire is a donut. He does not have a levy that goes to him directly for any funds that are within the town. So he does not have a levy for any fire within the town. If you were to do a territory, that would have all been reconfigured and everybody's had their levy and it would go to the provider. But that's secondary. So hopefully that gives some clarity that there's not a levy that he's already collecting or is sent to him by the county auditor or by DLGF. And there's no mandatory obligation that the township has to provide services within the town. My hope is that you guys have always been long collaborators, and this is just information that helps you know what questions to ask and answer and know how to navigate. It's my understanding too, and we were just catching up. Though the territory did not advance, Brad's done a lot of stuff to kind of buttress and shore up what's going on with the fire department. And from where it was to where it is, it certainly seems like it's progressing the right way. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I just wanted to try and shed some light and be helpful if I could be.
Questions?
Well,
Jeff?
well, of course, see, it don't cover, basically, Brad's fund don't cover fire, but what about EMS? Is that,
Fire and EMS is, my fund.
it's just one fund then?
Yeah.
My fund is called the Fire and EMS Fund. They changed that code this year in the state. It's Fund 1111.
But then also, being we're in Liberty Township, but we're in the town of Clayton, what taxes we pay, don't some of that go to the, do you?
There is, the town of Clayton pays tax. They pay a corporate general tax to the township trustee, and like he said, that covers the township parks, the cemeteries, those type of things. None of the fire comes out of that general fund. That's separate. And then everybody pays into the public assistance, which I do help. I've got 3 or 4 families in the town of Clayton that I've assisted last year, and there's one I assisted already this year with rent, utilities, medicine, all that stuff. So the township trustee does that. That's why the town pays a tax rate to them to the trustee for assistance, but the town does not pay a fire tax rate like outside the corporate limits. They pay a 0.0471 tax for fire to the township trustee. But the town of Clayton, if you look on there on that sheet, it says 0. So with our contract, we don't really, there's no, that's, you know.
So there needs to be a contract, it's just not an automatic thing that if a town belongs to a township that is providing firefighting services, then there has to be a contract for that? Or is it just assumed that the town is going to fill in that fund from its tax base for the services?
I think it would make sense. There are a couple ways to do it. There are ways to pass like reciprocal ordinances and resolutions to acknowledge the agreement if it's a wholly included municipality, and then you would just put in how you appropriate that. Or you could look at it, and some towns do this, but the provision of fire is getting to be so expensive to have a competing department. You could say, no, I think we decline. We're going to carve off a chunk of our general operating levy and use that to put on our own fire department. But the way I understand it, and Mr. Youngs could confirm this, or I don't know if you use FSG to confirm this, but whereas Brad has these segmented funds, for me, it makes it a lot easier. I can just say, hey, I want to take this debt fund and use it for the park. I'm like, did you borrow for the park? Nope. Then you can't do it. They're dedicated. You guys have a little tougher job because you have a lot of needs. You know, you may have utility, streets, curb and gutter, your town hall, other things, police. And so you've got to figure out in the array of things how to divide that pot, and fire can be part of it. And you just go and...
Right.
It seems to make sense, I don't want to speak for you on this, that you would just sub out what you were paying to the volunteer corporation, since he has subbed in that, and that would go in, and if you guys need to make changes in the future, that's a negotiation.
I don't think, the town doesn't have a problem with helping out with what is missing. I don't think. It's the fact we just kind of weren't aware that that was something that was going to have to be a deal struck for that, when we were informed by the chief back in, was it May or June?
May.
Yeah, that the contract would be over. There was no mention of a new contract for any services in the changeover after everything was put in place. So you know what budget construction is and everything for a town. We just didn't put any of that in for our budget construction for fiscal '24. So that's kind of where we were all kind of like, oh, what are we going to do, kind of a thing. And so my other question too would be, if somehow or other the tax rate goes up for funding for the township fire on your end, then is that going to be reflected to the town by saying to the town then it's going to be an increase to the town as well? Or does the town stay the same of what they're expected to pay to the township?
Here's kind of what I think. Here's how I would address that. And unless you guys get something that's just really, you know, a reorganizing a real catalytic event, of which, you know, like the territory would have been, you know, have very few opportunities to rewrite your levy. Otherwise, you're just waiting for the state to, you know, give you a morsel or two, you know, of 2 to 4% on a growth quotient, when, you know, last year was like the biggest growth increase people got, and it still was perhaps half of what inflation was. So you're always catching up. So that part aside, I think what makes a lot more sense is the easy thing to do, and I'm just kind of thinking aloud, is whatever was happening before with the volunteer department, we emulate that in a different agreement and make sure that the department and the services provided from corner to corner of the township, including you, remain the same or subject to the improvements you've already put in place. Then, what is needed is always budget driven. So you're kind of asking the inverse of the formula, saying, hey, if the rate changes, what will that do? I would look at it more as, I just, and this is top of mind because I spent 4 hours in Madison County talking about this. They were all talking about who's going to get all this extra lit. And I'm like, what's the difference? The budget's the budget. The department needs to come and bring you a budget and say, these are our needs. We're getting deployed here. These are the calls. We're getting put out on 70 for this. You know, we're in good shape on these items, but we need more personnel for this, or this apparatus, we need it. And you just kind of bring that budget around and go, we need a budget for this. And then you have the conversation about what's a sensible contribution, because all spending should be budget based. You know, the budget and the need and the demand from the public and dispatch should drive that budget, rather than kind of look at it from the rate and look at contribution in. So that's how I do it. I think I just kind of get in the habit of, okay, it's been some reorganization at his level. Let's look at that contract. Graham and I can spend a half hour a piece and go, you know, I'd use a dash here, well, I'd use a hyphen here, you know, boom, and the township's in instead of the volunteer department. You tell me if I'm out of turn, but it'd be approximately or about the same as what the prior contract was. Then, here we are, the second week of the year. It's not gonna be long before we're talking 2025 budgets. And when that comes around, I think that's when you guys all ought to get together and go, hey, here's what's going on at the department. And I don't wanna promise you any meetings, but, you know, do this again, but like, here's what's going on at the department, here's what's changed, here's what we've added. You know, he just mentioned you're at ALS now. I don't think people understand what a difference that makes in life-saving and care you get and survival rates. And have a conversation, you go, this is what I think we need to continue to keep providing this enhanced service. Then you decide for 25, does that number stay the same? Does it go up some? If it goes up some, what does that get you? Does it go up some because, you know, we've had some event overseas, or we've had an election or whatever, and we're back up to $4 a gallon gas. You know, if something good happened, we're down to $2 a gallon. I mean, stuff changes. So that would be the course I would recommend both to take, and just kind of get in the habit of doing a contract, or if you want to do it by resolution. But you did contracts before, I just do a contract again.
Well, I think to what Dave was talking about, this conversation probably would have been better to have back in October when we were finalizing our 24 budget, because we've already done that, and this component wasn't part of that. So we're already way behind the 8 ball on trying to figure out how to solve this problem, because we solved our 24 budget in October.
I understand, everybody did.
So
Yeah. I mean, the
and
only
we
way.
didn't know there was gonna be this levy shortfall that hadn't been brought up to us before.
The only way you would have to, again, talk to Mr. Youngs, but it would just be an additional appropriation. You would just have to go through and, you know, additional appropriation is just a mini budget process of, we did a big budget, and now we need to do a little budget, and you know, whatever you guys come up with as appropriate, is you just do an additional appropriation to cover whatever part that is. And if he says, I don't know what he's talking about, he's loony, have him call me. I mean, we get along great, so I'm happy to talk to him.
So we need to have a meeting then for additional appropriation, and you bring to us what you think you need, and we hash it
Well,
over.
he can draw a contract.
I mean, I can help. I can help you guys on the contract side. I don't want to advise you on what specifically you need to do. You can just ask Graham, say, hey, I think we're going to do this contract, and he'll immediately see, well, you know, we didn't provide for it. How do we do that? And again, I'm always happy to talk to him.
So the town is already supplying the facility over there for the fire department, and we take care of most of the maintenance on it for that fact. Is that gonna come into factor at all, or how does that?
I would say probably you've been doing that for a long, long time, so inherent, your in-kind contribution has always been there. I mean, the real problem is that you can't spend in kind. You know, you can't, he's got expenses relative to the budget, so I don't know how that would play in. It's certainly appreciated and welcome, and it helps you guys, cause you've got some apparatus to roll out here. Probably get you a point or so on your ISO rating that, you know, you've got apparatus here in town. My concern would be
Is
I
there
don't
any,
know. I'm
is
sorry.
there any way that that can be taken into concession for the fiscal year, for this fiscal year, in lieu of the fact that we don't have a budgeted amount?
I mean, you can't take sweat equity or in kind to your creditor and say, you know, look what I brought to the potluck. They're gonna say, that's fine, but fuel costs what fuel costs, personnel costs what personnel costs, insurance costs what insurance costs. And nobody's wanting to demean the in kind. It's been a nice collaboration, but we can't, you know, use that in lieu of folks sending invoices, so.
So in other words, the fact that the levy that the town needs to pay to the township, there's no waiving of that for a year or anything like that, because there's basically budgets you've constructed that count on the money from the town that need to go forward, right? Okay.
I have a question, because I'm not sure I'm understanding. So you have in your budget, our old contract that
The
is.
amount, we didn't take the whole contract, we took the amount. When I formulated my budget with Financial Solutions Group in Plainfield, they said, what's your income? I said, when we went, Chief Russell handed us the paper and said that the town of Clayton budgeted with him through FDLT for $42,000 a year,
Okay,
and that was part of.
so you have that in your budget.
Mhm.
We don't have it in our budget.
Right.
Right.
He has a placeholder and you lack an appropriation. So we've got a credit here and no debit over here, and so
Somebody's got to get a part-time job.
How do we come up with that kind of money, Jimmy? Or do you have any
You can do
idea?
an additional appropriation to do that, if there's money to be gotten.
Yeah.
But I was under the impression in May that the contract was over when Russell came in here and said that. And that's why we didn't.
That's what
wait.
he said,
Yeah,
so
that's what
we
he
took him
said.
at his word that it was done, that we were finished with that.
Yeah.
So, that's why we didn't move forward with budgeting anything. So, like I said, obviously, we can't wind the clock back and go back to October, but this would have been great to have this conversation in October saying the town's gonna owe this in 2024 because you're budgeting for it. So now you've budgeted for it, and
Did we not talk about this summer?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll make sure I'm clear on this.
it makes it tight for everybody. And I don't know what the communication was, and it's a present problem, and I doubt it'll ever be replicated, because now you are talking and you're setting up some communication.
I mean, I'll take some of the blame, sorry. You know, I'll take some of the blame because this is my first year being the trustee, and we had a lot of stuff on our plate trying to get the ALS up and running. This was the least of my, honestly, it was not even on my radar at the time of going through the state process to get the ALS back in. That's why Chief Russell, under my order, I actually asked him to come and advise you guys in May and June that this was coming. And I don't know what conversation was made in that meeting, because that's when they had approved for them to consolidate to the township, so. But I'll take 50% of the blame on it, because I didn't come to you guys directly, but, you should do this thing.
No, I just, you know, I can't find a time machine. I mean, we're here, so, and that's kind of the nature of all of us, you know, agreeing to do this. Maybe the course is, you know, your clerk treasurer will have to look at the balance sheets and go, you know, there's some here, there's some here, there's some here, some rainy day here, you know, and find find it, and if not, then, you know, we're just gonna have more conversations, which are not bad. You know, we're identifying that the reason we're here is didn't have quite enough conversation, so if we have a little more conversation, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, when would you expect to have the funding, like a timetable?
We don't get our next draw till June.
Okay,
That's when money usually comes in, is June and December.
I guess that's what we have to do then, is just have
I mean, just to kind of
a
put you up
meeting
to
and figure
speed,
out what Jenny, where we're pulling it from, and
I don't know if Chief Russell, I know Chief Russell probably hasn't been to any of the meetings recently. I don't know what his schedule is. I know he comes, we have meetings every Monday, me and him. Just to give you up to speed, right now, we have basically 2 paid people on standby at station, pretty much every day. There's a few days we miss every once in a while, but we've got, 7 paramedics now that are being paid on the department's salary, basically. They're not salary, but they're paid standby. We just took the delivery on a brand new engine that we just got from the county, which was $465,000. It's in Hazelwood Station right now. It'll be in service sometime mid-February. The engine that was here at the station is going out for refurb in July for a complete off chassis refurb. That cost us $268,000. We just took an order for an ambulance in 40 months, which was $431,000. But it would be 40 months before we get to see it. So we're, like I said, we're trying to move toward this more of having people on standby, and so that's where we're at right now. So,
Yeah, we haven't had any representation from the fire department since,
and we did get the ALS service back, so we ended up having to buy 2 ALS monitors, 2 Locus devices, full ALS equipment for the ambulance, and we usually staff it about every day with a medic. So,
All right, so I just want to back up and kind of clarify some things in my head. So, you budgeted that you were going to get $42,000 from Clayton for 2024 based on a previous contract. Not,
based on what
not with a conversation with us, but
most
so
people told, yeah, with Chief Russell.
we're to understand that we're obligated to pay that $42,000 regardless because he put that in his budget. Or did we have a say in that amount that was put in his 24 budget?
I can't really answer that. It sounds like he was using the old contract, and it had been that amount for a while as a placeholder. So there is no agreement among the parties. No, as far as I understand, no agreement that you pay it, and no agreement that he service you.
well, he has to service us if we pay the
Right.
funding.
Yeah.
If we pay the funding to make up the gap that
Sure.
the town has expected,
Right.
but
I mean,
that's not 42,000.
Right. Right. No. What I'm trying to say is that if you have a however much budget and X amount doesn't come through, you either borrow it or you do without. There will have to be something, some austerity of something he does without, the department does without, is stalled or is not provided. And I don't know, I'm just going through basic household economics of, if it doesn't come in, you can't deploy it.
Yeah, so, but that amount, that 42,000, that's set in his budget, but we're not obligated to pay it. If we come up with something to pay based on our valuation and that tax rate that we're missing, which is 0.0401, that's the difference between a township person paying taxes to the township and an incorporated person paying to the township. So multiply that by our valuation and it comes out to about 16,000 a year. So if we come up with 16,000 to meet that, is that enough for our obligation? Or do we still have to come up with the number that he budgeted for, even though we didn't have a part in that negotiation?
You guys have to talk about what, if you wanna do something lesser. I mean, I don't know. I mean, everything is negotiable among the units and you guys have to come to some accord. And Y-42 was acceptable to a volunteer department, but now is perhaps less so because it's the township, so, don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of history with that. Obviously, previous administration, before Mr. Butler took over, there was a lot of, I guess, downplaying of the importance of the fire department. And so we, based on the fact that the chief was here every month and negotiated with us, gave us reports, told us what was going on, we came up with that number based on his requests. So that, at that time, we met those requests as they were presented to us before budget time. So, and then that's, unfortunately, here, we didn't get a request at budget time for the fire department for next year, so we just, I mean, we skipped that part. We said, well, they must not need that.
Sure.
So, but if we scrape together, you know, something, whether it's 16,000 or 42,000 or somewhere in between, I mean, that's,
You guys have to talk.
okay.
You guys,
So-
and maybe it ought to just be, I don't wanna promise you to anything, but you ought to just have a direct talk, or maybe have Chief Russell in that triangle. You gotta find the something, so this is all very hypothetical at the moment, but, you know, we've gotta hear from her if she's got any, magic spells that she can do, but, yeah, it's, you guys have to talk.
Sure.
And then, obviously, that begs the question, or begs the need of, you know, probably ought to be some quarterly reports or something of, you know, how's it going? What's the run volume, you know? You're a different department now. I mean, I don't think people appreciate, you know, that there will be lives saved between BLS and ALS. I mean, you can just do stuff that the other service can't do. And, you know, that's good news. You know, this is a pinch, it hurts. It's like, man, you know, I gotta find something I spent somewhere else. I get it, I totally understand. There's a sunny side too. There's good stuff happening, and I think it's a dip, and it'll be up from here, so.
Yeah, and just to let everybody, I did get a call from Chief Russell today, and he gave me a pretty big wish list on all the work that he wants done at the fire station, so.
Sure.
So this is not, I mean, this budget shortfall is not the only thing that they're asking for. So we have to just, I mean, there'll be a lot of different components in this discussion on what's going on. I mean, I know that building is old and needs lots of work. You know, we're not, you know, we're not apathetic to that. We wanna make sure and make that building workable for our, you know, first responders that are out here saving lives, so that's definitely something we wanna do. It's just a matter of, we have, you know, a lot of things that we've obligated our monies to already in '24 that we're gonna have to figure out, but.
Sure. This is a start. I think, who moves first? Do you wanna come back with what? I mean, Graham and I could contract all day long, but if there's no amount, there's no purpose in, you know, us spending time. I think maybe, do you wanna hear from them on what the clerk treasurer comes up with? I mean,
Yeah, that's fine, whatever.
Yeah,
Whatever
it just-
works, whatever works, it doesn't matter.
yeah, it's just somebody get back in touch with somebody, and I think that's the way to roll.
All right, so, Jenny and Judy are,
She
oh,
left,
she was back over there.
she left.
You guys have homework, I guess,
I guess.
so,
She's
you'll
scared to laugh.
work through our 24 allocations and find,
After we do the year-end report,
You just don't take no lunch break.
okay.
we want.
Anything else for township trustee or something?
I wanna say I'm happy with the way I've heard things are moving with the whole thing. I thought the move was great that you did, so.
Yeah.
I'm happy with how all that's going and the services that have been provided, so I think we're moving in the right direction.
say it's working too, cause I've used them twice.
You build them extra, right?
Yeah,
You build them extra, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
I did, hear that, our paramedic unit has actually been sent into Plainfield to do mutual aid also.
Well, that's gotta stop.
No, that's how it works, is
Yeah.
mutual aid. If you're available, you show up on the CAD for the dispatch center, you get sent. And so, since we've got a paramedic on this ambulance, we've been providing some mutual aid to Plainfield now, so they can't 100% gripe again like they used to.
Well, you'd have, many folks don't know how awesome that is, because I first got engaged with this when Commissioner Whetstone was on the commission, and it was a very odd session with the commissioner's administrator and in that room in the annex, and they brought Ron and Sandy and I in. There were all these gentlemen sitting over to the side, and we didn't know who they were, and it was to give Ron an ambulance out of the RDC money, and Ron, being salt of the earth, said, "That's all great, but who's gonna drive it?" And then the rest of the meeting was all the territory, Plainfield territory, going through all the unanswered mutual aid numbers.
Yeah.
So it's a change. It is a shift, and if you look at it over a period of years, that's good news what you shared. So folks may not realize it, but it's a really good thing that that's occurring, and I'm glad it's acknowledged.
We'll work something out.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming to our meeting and
Yeah.
helping shed some light on this and giving us some homework.
Good, thank you.
We will work on this, thank you. All right, next item on the agenda, driveway at the sewer plant. So Pete, you found our contract.
Yep. Guy should have page 8 out of that.
Page 8.
Highlighted. Says they'll share the expense, basically 50-50.
Accept. I thought this was an interesting part of this
Yeah.
agreement. So that in the event the company shall permit other commercial traffic or public traffic upon the said easement, the company shall be solely responsible for the additional prorated cost of the increased traffic. So I don't know how you measure that.
Yeah.
Like, how do you? We had 3 semis come down this road, so here's our prorated amount.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
the
know.
only time they have anybody
it-
else is when they have delivery.
Right. I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, it's great, you know, that we found the agreement. It just, to me, it's very vague. It
And-
seems
well,
like it's
and
very
if you think about it,
open-ended.
I don't think George's pickup truck weighs a whole lot. It's not gonna do a whole lot of damage to that
When I
road.
go to eat lunch and come back, it increases a little bit.
And that's about the only traffic that we have going up and down, other than AA.
Well,
Septic.
I think Benner, from when he was talking to me that one day, he was there when I had lunch. He would like for the town, he would want to know, would the town like to have that road? That would be the town. We would own the whole road.
I'm trying to think of an advantage here.
Well, one, the advantage would
Oh,
be,
other than the mileage,
we could add that section of pavement to our
yeah.
inventory
Yeah.
and get
Get
motor
a little
vehicle
bit
highway
more.
funds for it. Not much, but it'd be, you know, another few pennies. We would also be assured of access to our wastewater treatment plant, no matter who owns that property next to it. So if James Penner sells to, you know, Irving R. Glick,
Yeah,
and Irving R. Glick just decides all of a sudden, I'm not letting you use my road. What recourse do we have to get to our wastewater treatment plant?
Yeah, we have to have deliveries back there too,
So,
chemicals
I
and
mean,
stuff.
is that something that could happen in the future?
More likely,
A different owner, all of a sudden,
Yeah.
says, I'm not giving you access on my road or my property. So, would there be an advantage of, you know, going through the process of, you know, survey, you know, checking with, you know, the, Mr. Penner and those involved is, what about, that becomes town property, you know, whether it's a purchase or a donation or whatever. I mean, I'd love a donation.
Yeah, I was gonna
but
say, that'd really be an
but
advantage.
It has to be that,
Yeah.
but if,
Yeah.
you know, and then it becomes, you know, another collector street in Clayton. The trucks that go back there to, you know, AA Septic and whatever other business James comes up with would still have access to it, just like they do any
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
public
Well, yeah,
collector street.
right.
I mean, they can drive down Michigan if they want, so
Yeah.
they can drive down that street. But it would be, then it would be owned by the town of Clayton. We would not ever have to worry about ownership changing to somebody who decides we don't get access down that road. And, I mean, I know that's, here I'm talking about spending more money. And we just talked about how we don't have any.
It's only money in it.
This is,
No
I
big
mean,
deal.
just a thought in my mind of, you know, that, it's, you know,
Yeah.
a, what is that, about a 13-foot wide section of pavement over there. It's not very wide.
No,
It's
I
not-
I don't think,
you
you'd
can't
have a
fit
hard
two
time
single-
passing.
Right. And, well, he was also talking about, when he talked to me about adding the easement onto it, the town would have it would be a wider road for the town. Because what he had in mind, if the guy that bought the other part of the business was thinking about buying his business, that where you turn into the sewer plant, he was gonna fence all that off and put storage buildings. They're working on zoning and all that for it right now. He's been getting that done.
That's on back, right? Back by
Well-
the plant.
No, as you go in, back to the,
He's gonna take some of that farmland right there?
yeah, but he would, part of that would be the road for the town.
Okay.
Add on more, maybe 5 feet or something like
Yeah.
that. But then, the other side of that road, you put storage buildings in there.
He's gonna tear down that garage, right?
That
Did
little
he say
The
he's gonna
little-
tear down that little
right.
garage?
On the north side of
Yeah,
that
Yeah.
pavement, and then,
yeah, I think that's what he said when he was here
Yeah.
last month,
right.
in Aberdeen.
Do we have any information on possibly an increase of traffic on his behalf or heavier trucks going down through there at any given point?
No, just what I was getting at is the AA septic trucks that run up and down there every day.
Yeah,
Right, but I mean, there's no future plans that he has, like if he expands on some work on, with his side of down there, let's just say he has to have some semis start coming down through there. I mean, is there a way we can state that present traffic is acceptable, but if there's an increase in tonnage or something of vehicles that he's got, or anyone's business is going down through there, then at that point, we have to kind of maybe have a talk about something.
Well, I guess we'd have to worry about if it stayed in his possession, but like you said, if the town took it over, anybody can drive down, right?
Right, you'd have, I mean,
Well, I was meaning that if there's heavier equipment going down through there, then if it's the town's road, then that means we're gonna have a higher maintenance cost.
Right.
Because of,
But storage buildings, I don't think would cause that, would it?
guess it depends on what you're storing.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, heavy equipment.
All those gold bullion that Dave's
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
hide back down there,
Yeah,
Well,
those are heavy.
Isn't there a way that you can designate that that's a,
well, I suppose you
so
could.
many tonnage can only go on this
oh, yeah,
road?
classification of the road.
Yeah,
you know, but
Would there
also
be
once in
some
a
way to
while
do
though,
that?
because he makes those tanks.
Right.
He's got a patent on those tanks and he sells those or they get delivered to him. I'm sure it'd come in on a flatbed once in a while, but it's,
Yeah, low boy.
yeah, but the weight usually distributed on those.
It's- I don't know exactly how much that weighs. They're hollow.
Those
but-
don't look like they weigh very much at
No,
all.
I mean, it wouldn't be, maybe at the most, what, 15,000? But then you gotta add in the trailer.
I think we ought to talk to him, see if he would wanna donate it to us. Or go have lunch with him, maybe he'll,
Yeah, there you go, that'll work. Tell him a good joke.
yeah.
I was just looking for
All right, so, I mean, is everybody okay with starting the conversation about, potentially, making that an actual town-owned property and road, and then we would assume 100% of the maintenance, but it would also be able to be put in our inventory. There would be no risk in the future of another property owner coming along and
Right,
revoking our access to the wastewater treatment plant.
yeah.
All right, well, you'll start working on
Yeah, I
a
can-
conversation about that and what we need to do for the next, as far as, I imagine
I'll ask him, see
we
what,
have to be,
see where we go from there.
okay, thank you. All right, on to new business, snow removal. Pete, see how I waited till you got
Yeah.
sat down?
Yeah,
I'm
well, I
taking
had to get
lessons
my-
from your
anyway.
wife there.
Last Saturday when I was cleaning off the town hall here, Nathan Dullberg lives at 426 West Michigan Street. He stopped in and asked me if our maintenance man went to Florida, and I said, yeah, he did. And he goes, do you need anybody to push snow? And I said, well, we might. So I talked to him today quite a bit and asked him how much experience he had. He worked for the county where he moved from. I think it was Utah where he come from.
Utah or Iowa.
Yeah, I think it was Utah. But he said he's pushed snow before and all that, and I asked him if he'd be willing to go out with me so I could show him the ropes and what to do and what not to do, and make sure we push snow other directions in certain places. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should
So
we
he
check-
said he'd be interested.
Should we check his driver's license? Make sure he doesn't have any.
Well, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that'd be
And I
a,
think he's from Nebraska, just saying.
is it Nebraska?
I think so.
Okay,
And you're wanting to pay him out of the fund that is designated for the town maintenance
Yeah.
person.
yeah,
So he would essentially be filling in for Jerry while he's out of town.
yeah. And his hours are 1 PM to 10 PM. So I told him if something happens, I'd back him up if necessary and all that. In between those hours. He said he'd be available in the morning hours and evening
This
hours.
is just for snow removal.
Yes.
I didn't know Jerry was a snowbird.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it'll be all right.
He didn't have enough meat on him.
And when we've done that before, Jenny, we still hire the person and make them a temporary employee or whatever, like when Sandy was off or,
Well, that's basically what I did when I first started here, right?
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, we just hire him as a
Temporary
maintenance man,
maintenance
yeah.
person, and then he just does his hours when it snows.
Yeah.
No, you guys are bonded, Pete, me, and, is it?
So would that person need bonded? Does that person need bonded?
No, cause they don't mess with money or anything, so they'd be okay.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with insurance?
No, we'd have to put him on our insurance policy.
Yeah, if
Since
he's
he's
driving
driving
Oh, okay.
The
So, but the bonding has nothing to do with
No.
being on the insurance?
No.
Okay.
Hey, that's a yay for me.
Huh?
Yay for
Oh,
me.
okay.
your town employees are really up to you, but, sounds like we're all in agreement that this would be, a good fill-in person while Jerry's out of town.
Okay. Like I said, you need a copy of his driver's license?
And probably Thomas might want a copy too.
Okay,
Check it out.
okay.
There you go. All right, any other questions for Pete? Okay, price of our cameras at the Wi-Fi at the park.
You guys got this, right?
Yep. Those are some awful big numbers for cameras at the park.
It is, isn't it? I was shocked. Especially, what was it, Jenny, with the ones we have here? Like 3,200 or something?
3,200, I think,
Yeah,
for 5 of them.
yeah.
From the same company? Was it the same company?
Yeah, same company.
Oh, it is the same?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
money by the raising, they need some money.
And I talked to TDS again today,
Yeah,
and he told me that the 600 would be enough to do the cameras and say if the public wanted to get on it, latch onto it. So that would save a lot more money.
600 megabits rather than a gig.
So, but yeah, so going to 600 instead of a whole gig would be $6,435 difference.
So I think, I think if we can get by with the 600 for the cameras,
But we'd have to buy the cameras ourselves. I put that price in there. I looked some of those Real Link cameras up.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with those? You can either get singular or you
So
can
this
get
doesn't-
Wi-Fi.
So the Verkada cameras can't go on a 600,
Well, we'd have to have the contract with them to put those cameras up there. To use their cameras.
well, their cameras, their contract and their cameras aren't providing the service to the cameras. TDS would be providing the service to the cameras, and Verkada is.
Well, now, I didn't get a price separately with just a well, wait a minute here. License, Brett, Willie. Is that $1,472.47? Is that what they want for the cameras?
There looks to me like we already have cameras we got a year ago from them. So it looks to me like they're gonna put in new cameras and take away the ones that we just purchased or render them obsolete for us. And then we're stuck with the cameras we just bought a year ago, and they're giving us all new cameras
Yeah.
for $7,300. To me, from my point of view, from our past conversations and stuff, when all of this started with talking to them, we just want the one camera that faces the restroom doors,
Right.
and we keep the other cameras functional as they are. So we're just gonna add a camera to the service, and that's what he needs to quote us on. That's kind of what we wanted to start with, and then he wanted to do visit and everything, which is what he did. So I don't,
Now, the cameras that are on there now are hardwired, and they're into that system that Matt set up.
right, we
That-
could move over to a TDS system. I'm talking about the Verkada cameras.
Yeah,
And then the cameras that Matt has set up, that are the ones that we really don't get to see, they're tied into that NVR system. But we just don't have access to it because we don't know how to get in.
well, as far as I know, don't we just have one Verkada camera down there, the one that's on the gazebo? That's why we have that,
Yeah, the one, no,
because all them other cameras are on that machine in the
yes, that's
storage
right.
room.
That's right.
Yeah.
We wanted to add a camera, the other cameras are tied into that
Right,
system
which
that Matt.
we have no idea how to operate
We
them.
can figure that out.
Okay,
And
that would be great.
so we should try to just get the one camera that we want for real-time streaming that we can review on and record from Verkada. And then we should look at getting the other ones functional, get that system functional. We can have two separate systems that Thomas or anybody can tap into to review and capture video if we need to.
Yeah,
So, and that all can run off that 600 system.
This is the Wi-Fi.
Feed, yeah.
yeah.
So were the Verkada cameras that were those wireless that he was gonna put down there, or are they gonna be all wired?
Well, they would have been hooked into the Wi-Fi system.
Okay. So I understand what he was doing now. He's wanted to remove all the cameras that are there but really not accessible. Add cameras.
Yeah, I don't know if he's gonna remove them, he's just not gonna do anything with them.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
that's why he was putting in 5 cameras.
yeah. So, well, when I talked to him when he's down there, he should have told me that those were Verkada cameras, because,
No, they're not, but they're not Verkada cameras.
okay,
One is Verkada camera.
Yeah, the
other
one that's
ones
on the-
are part of that system that Matt put in.
yeah,
But we want one more camera that faces
the
the
restrooms,
restroom,
yeah.
and we have that feed and the other feed going to the Verkada site. Sorry, everyone, I know you guys don't. Go to the Verkada site, and that way in real time, Thomas can view it, you can view it, Doug can view it, or whoever needs
Yeah.
to view it, can check it out to see what's going on, if there was any activity or review to see what happened down there.
So, that's gonna get a little more. If we just go with one more camera, then I believe that system, that AT&T that we looked at inside the shed, that, I think that will take one more camera on it, which is the system that's already there.
It could, or we could tie it into a permanent static setup like the
Yeah.
TNS system, so.
Well, it sounds like I need to do some more work on that.
No, well, you do, but I mean, we can
No,
do it.
I mean,
Just-
Yeah, I'm all for, yeah, cause that there's ridiculous, I think.
Yeah. I think somebody saw a municipality looking for cameras and decided I can
Yeah,
strike a new deal,
yeah.
so.
So when are you gonna have time where we go down there and look at them cameras? Okay,
Yeah,
all right, we'll try to,
we'll get that. When it's warm.
maybe we'll do that
When
first
it's
for,
warmer.
huh?
When it's warmer.
Oh, we'll wait till it's 20 below and then we're gonna do it.
It will be the next week.
Well, and if you want a different, like a quote from a different company, I've got an acquaintance that they do tech systems for the public schools.
Yeah.
And if you wanna, talk to him as well and see how that compares, is,
I don't know when Doug bought that, not Doug,
Matt?
Matt bought that system down there and how long it's been there and what quality the cameras are, but we could probably really replace that fairly cheaply
Yeah,
than what's on here, for sure.
yeah,
And then, or talk to this, and they would probably do the same, some other kind of system. The Verkada system's really, it's nice because it's kinda like, it just goes in place and you don't touch it. They set it all up and it's done. And that's, I think it's by Matt.
Yeah.
Because it was easy to take out of the box and stuff.
okay.
any other questions from anyone for Pete on this? All right, well, we'll table that until, we get more
Right,
details on the numbers and those kind of things for that, so. It was, I got a little sticker shock when you put that paper in.
yeah, well, I did too. I told Jenny when I come back, I said, you're not gonna believe this.
All right,
Streetlights?
streetlights, you wanna talk about the streetlights? Go ahead.
I think this is kind of a no-brainer. If you look on the left-hand side of the front page, they have what they call a Rider 42. They will change all of our lights over to LEDs. It'll reduce our light bill from the top up there in the previous bill. And if you look down right above the green where it says rebate, that's what our light bill will be after they change them to LEDs. And the green is what we get back for them doing it.
I did ask Pete, I said, I don't like the blue color over on Western, and he said that he talked to him and they can have a different color for us throughout town.
Well,
So it'd be a softer, like white
Yeah.
light.
But is that a no dealer just if they are blue? I guess that would be a question.
Every time I drive down Western, I think there's a disco going on over there, so I did like that.
Well, just wear
Really
your
weird.
boots.
My neighbors don't, I've heard more than once about it,
About the blue light?
about the blue light.
Yeah.
I'm like, I
It's
don't
just
know how you do that.
And they said that even if,
happened.
if we go through with this, they won't even be able to get to it till March. Cause all the small towns are doing it.
So to get this straight, the monthly charge is gonna drop from $9.51 down to $7.20,
Yes,
Yes.
and that we're also gonna get $3,500 back.
yeah. What do you think about that?
Now, this is to change the existing lights, so
Yeah.
if we
Now,
wanna add more lights, that's
Well,
different, but.
John wanted to add a light. Matter of fact, two lights. There's one at Pennsylvania and Tennessee where the new doubles are. Normally, there's a light on the pole at each intersection where you turn. There's not one there. And then down by the food bank, across from the fire station. And they said that would be between $10 and $15 a month more for each light. And they would put it up for nothing.
LEDs.
Yes.
I was just kind of surprised, you know, if you go on the Duke's website and you zoom in to Clayton on their map, the distribution of the lights is just, to me, looks like somebody was blindfolded and throwing darts. I mean, they're not evenly spaced at all. There are some, you know, parts of town where there's a, you know, one at the intersection, one half block, one at the next intersection, and so on. And then there's other parts where it's like you can drive, you know, past 2 streets before you get to another light. 39, as busy as 39 is, to me, it seems like there should be a lot more lights on 39 than there are at anywhere else, but there aren't. They're spaced out just the same.
Well, that one
So I don't-
at Pennsylvania and 39 or Kentucky,
Right,
that would kind of even the space up there.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, those lights were probably, I'm gonna say, grandfathered in from Duke whenever they first put them in.
Yeah.
They just stuck to that when they put
Yeah.
those in and redid the roads.
Is it?
I mean, obviously, that part doesn't have to be dealt with
Yeah.
immediately, but I just didn't know, in your conversations with the representative of Duke, just like, how do they make the determination on how many streetlights go into a place versus how many don't?
Well, they really didn't get into that with me. They just said, you have 116 lights. I said, yeah, that's correct. I said, we're thinking about adding 2 more. And I emailed back about your question on the blue light and all that stuff, because I was already off the phone with her.
Yeah,
But, and I looked at this on this side, I thought, here again, you'd have to come up with almost $53,000. That'd take a long time to recoup that, to get the bill down to 549.
yeah, option 1 definitely seems like
Yeah.
the way to go on this. Any other questions
I
on
think it-
streetlights?
I think we ought to go for it. If they replace them, and the bill be cheaper.
Yeah.
I agree, 39 could use more lights just from a law enforcement standpoint.
Right.
Especially you got businesses coming in, obviously lights deter crime. So
Well,
research
that's
on
something that we can drive up and down and try to decide where we want more, and
Yeah.
I can always ask them, how much more is this gonna cost us?
And nighttime would be the best time to do that.
Yeah.
I think.
Is there any lighting that's gonna be associated with the Van Dalen Trail going through? And are we responsible for any of that, or would that be something
I
that the
think-
Trail Association would?
I mean, that'd be a good question to ask the Parks and Rec guy. I don't know what their plan is with that.
They're supposed to start on that this year again, aren't they?
Right, summer this year, so they're supposed to get, definitely would be something to ask the Parks and Rec person, and then maybe we
Yeah.
need to readdress with Duke on those lights there.
Do we have a time frame they want
No,
to say if they started? in
no,
March?
I mean, anytime I call them, but she said we won't be able to get to it in March, somewhere in that area, because they're so far behind on replacing all these.
We'll call her soon, cause it says it's a limited time offer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can always put our bid in and just say, hey, we may add more lights, because I asked her about 2
Yeah.
more lights.
personally, I think we ought to do that.
Well, if we took the difference between what we're paying now, that we're used to paying, and the 574, if I'm doing this quickly,
Mhm.
we could probably get like 20 more lights
But,
and still be paying,
And still be paying
and
about the
still
same
be
thing.
paying the same amount that we're used to paying.
Yeah.
Right.
now you're talking about option 2?
No, option 1
Okay.
is they're gonna
Well,
switch
she
out
said
the
570.
LED monthly, but then adding more lights, if we added in more.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Then it would bring that monthly charge back up to what we're currently
right.
paying.
But I was looking at this 574, that was under option 2. But I see what you're saying, yeah. Yeah, we could probably add at $10 a clip, or we'll say $12.50 to split the difference between the 10 and 15, what she told me. Yeah, we could add a whole bunch more lights.
They would all be mounted to poles.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
On a drone.
no, I'm talking about like some kind of ornate,
You mean a
Town
nice little-
light.
You mean a
Oh,
nice
no.
little-
No.
yeah.
Oh,
When I hit the lottery, that's what I'm buying the town, so just.
there you go.
They used to have them, didn't they?
Are you still buying tickets?
Hey, what do you mean? She's a McCamey. They buy tickets every week.
All right, just checking.
Every other day.
All right, John, then, I need a motion if you're, serious about this.
Yeah. Well, I make a motion that we go with the LED lights from Duke, and if we need to, we'll check the lights out and how many more we need, but.
Option
go
one,
with
right?
Option one, yeah.
Okay, I got a first motion,
I'll second.
got a second motion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we'll go with option one.
All right, thank
Give
you.
him a call back. Thank you. All right, election of president, vice president. So I open the floor to nominations for town council president and vice president.
Well, I make a motion that Doug continue his job as president of the board.
That'll teach you to raise your hand next time.
All right, I have a first and second motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye.
Really?
All right, vice president.
I'll make a motion that we keep John as vice president.
David is
Oh,
vice
Dave's
David.
vice president.
Oh, David.
Yeah, you can change it to David, 'cause I think he did a good job.
And so you're nominating
David.
David.
I will second it.
And I got a first and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carried. We got president, vice president for next
That
year.
tells how much
You know what?
the
I
vice
haven't
president
been-
does.
I haven't been
don't know
sworn
who's
in,
the
so
vice
I can't be
president.
president.
I go to a lot of
I-
social events, a lot of handshaking, those kinds of things.
I have to advocate because I haven't been sworn in for 2024.
That's right.
Are we gonna,
We can do that tonight.
okay,
Did you bring your paper?
no?
I've got one in there.
Okay. I thought maybe that meant I didn't have to do it if I
No.
didn't bring my.
Can I take pictures?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, before we do that, we'll have Pete continue with his business. Your name is up next.
Okay. All right, we got a new security light on the west end of the fire department. Working. I checked every morning and it's coming on when it's supposed to. I don't know about going off. I got the new lock on the shelter house. We won't need it for a while. And Jenny and I talked this over. We're gonna try to set it up with the, what is it, RFID and issue it to them so you don't need a code.
Okay.
And then put it in there that if they don't return it, they lose their,
How much do those RFID cards cost?
oh, they're not very expensive.
What was it, $12.99 for how many of them?
Well, I couldn't find that
Oh,
deal.
that's
Remember I
right.
told you I found a deal of 8 for $9.99.
Okay.
And then do we have a programmer?
Then we'll program them.
Yeah, they
and then
programmed the
we'll-
lock, and if they're not brought back, I can take that out. It can't be used.
Yeah.
But
Can you-
we could still get in.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put your guys'
No,
codes and
everybody
everything.
but you.
Yeah, I'm gonna put all your guys' codes
Do you
in.
program a card to expire?
You have to use your email,
Uh,
John.
yeah, I believe you
have
can
to
do it
use your email
temporary.
to get in.
So that way you could.
You have to
I
have
got
your
some mail
phone.
today.
But
It
if,
doesn't
say,
come
say
back.
they don't bring it back,
Out
I
of
can go
mailbox.
to, I can go to my phone as an administrator and stop that one from being used. It won't work.
Yeah. And they don't get their $25 back.
Which will more than pay for another
Right.
RFID card
Yeah.
if you need it. Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And about the water deal is brought up, was it Diane Anderson?
Oh, yeah.
I talked to a guy named Brendan Smith from the state IDM, and he tells me that there were originally 4 homes that had water problems. One of them has since passed the test. 3 of them still have, or it's 2 houses in the fire department building. still have filtration on furnished by the state, but it is not classified as a Superfund well.
And these were required because of
Contamination.
what used to be a dry cleaner over in
Yeah.
that area, dumped all their
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dry cleaning
chloral,
stuff.
yeah, the dry cleaning.
So thank goodness she
Out.
found that or read that, because that's in the comprehensive plan.
It's not classified as a what?
Super fun.
Superfund.
Which is
And he
really
left,
weird that they
Related to
call it
super-
that.
Yeah.
Because it means that there's a waste cleanup. I don't know where they
Yeah.
got the term super fun.
and
from
he
that,
left me his name and phone number. I'm gonna pass that on to Structure Point,
but- Okay.
where they can get in contact with him so they take that out of there. And,
Well, an IDM site still shows this as a contaminated cleanup zone, so they also need to fix that part.
yeah,
'Cause they shouldn't have it classified on there if it's not true.
right.
Because that can affect home pricing, it can affect.
A lot of things,
fire
yeah.
departments, yeah, so,
Yeah, I wasn't even aware of it myself, but,
I wasn't either until,
yeah.
American Structure Point put it in that
And
draft.
you asked me if I could possibly find somebody to get on the planning and zoning.
Yeah,
Tom Stein's come in and I asked him if he'd be interested, and he said he'd take it under consideration.
okay.
I explained to him the days and all that, and I'm pretty sure he'll do it if you guys, if you approve of it, the board approves of it.
So we're, reason that I'm bringing that up is, Rob Miranda is retired, he's gonna have, some shoulder surgery and then probably
Move to
not
Tennessee.
gonna see him much after that.
Yeah.
So we need to replace him on both the BZA and the planning commission, so.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pete.
All right, that's it.
Anybody got any other questions for Pete? Okay. All right, George Burnett, you're up next.
Well, I was gonna not have anything for tonight until Tuesday happened.
He has no paperwork, so.
I have no paperwork,
Well,
nothing,
I can
so
let you borrow this if you want.
I'm gonna just throw that away.
No,
So we were at
throw this
the,
away.
Minnie and I was at the sewer plant on Tuesday doing testing, and I turned around and there's a strange person there. I was like, well, who's this is? But it was the IDM inspector. So he said, hey, I've been around, looked at it, the facility looks really good. All the testing results look good. He was happy with the system that we put in place to divert the flow when we actually have the rain events. That's where we're diverting and using our other tank. But then he turned around and said, well, what about the aeration that you have that you're put in to actually take care of the previous problem that we had? He said, we don't show it in our records that it's been closed out or it's been taken care of. So I got a hold of Banning, and Banning said, yeah, we've sent them all the information. So there's some kind of disconnect between what Banning's communicated to them and what they have on their records. So I called, after I got the report today, I sent it to Josh at Banning, and he's making contact with the folks to figure out what are we gonna have to do to finalize the paperwork to resolve everything. So,
Yeah, because when I read this, I thought, oh, great, they are, they
backstepping.
basically
yeah,
caught us with something that we weren't supposed to have.
Right,
Because this was supposed to be
His
added to the permit.
yeah. His language ended up being different than what he spoke there, but nonetheless, he's trying to communicate the same thing.
So essentially Banning has to get approval to use the system that they've already installed and
Right.
are using.
Yeah,
And this Kevin Zernikowski
Yeah.
is
he's already spoken to him,
in charge of
right,
actually getting that on the records of our permit
right.
at the IDM side.
Right.
All right,
So,
and as far as your understanding is, they approved this
yeah,
back before we
oh,
installed
before we
it,
even put it in, right.
and then,
Right.
but they just didn't remember to write it down.
Somewhere along those lines, I think's what's happening, yeah. Yeah.
All right,
So, but the system's working good. It's taking care of the problem that they had. Solids were building up. Now they don't build up because we're aerating it, so everything's staying in concentration and moving through as it should. So the system as a whole is working really good. So,
all right, well, they still brought up the INI,
Yeah.
inflow and infiltration, and which just reading through this paragraph that he put on here, I'm trying to understand. I mean, he says that the INI was causing us to be beyond our capacity. But then he says that, you know, with the changes you made
Right,
of diverting
yeah,
stuff into an unused tank, that you solved
we solved the problem, right.
But, so I don't understand why he's saying this is a violation
So,
or unsatisfactory, because he's, I mean, the
Yeah.
first sentence he has, collection system has a rating of unsatisfactory, so that just confuses me.
yeah, that shouldn't have stated like that, because what he had told me at the time was, that we just need to document to him when we straighten out this other issue, what we've done to resolve that issue. So he just wants documentation, hey, we put in a bypass, we're using the flow to allocate when to close the gates and where we're diverting it to. So he just wants it in document as to how we solved the problem. So my thought was you know, we'll just step by step, hey, we've done this, we've done this, we've done this, and here's how we've solved the problem. And that would resolve, I think it's item number 2 on there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And which,
So I just tell him we put in a gate, we put in a butterfly valve, that's what I told him when he was there. And then we're diverting the flow, because he was confused. He said, well, how'd you make your flow go from these high numbers down to here? Well, here's what we've done. We put a gate in, a valve. When the flow goes up, we divert it over the tank, and then we pump it back in when the flow's back down. He was like, well, I knew something had happened. So he was happy with how we'd done it. He just didn't, items going to a more, what they call a virtual file cabinet, both on the wastewater and the water side. And so they're trying to catch up with their documentation and have everything in there on record. So it's just a way to collect it, and they want it there so that it's actually stated how we solved the problem.
all right, we're still working on solving more INI issues though,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and I told him about that part. He said we could probably include that in that part of the report too, that we're working on getting easements, and here's what we're gonna do. We found a bad section of pipe, and we're gonna replace it, just so that they know that we're continuing to work on INI as time progresses.
Right, now is that the only spot over here between D9 and D8 or
It
whatever
appears to
it
be,
is
yeah,
that we're working on?
Right.
So we're not, cause I know when GRW got finished up, that we rehabbed like 101 of our manholes.
Yeah.
But they said the rest need to be
Right.
rehabbed as well, so
Yeah.
how many do we have left? Another 40?
yeah, probably, yeah.
So, or do we have a plan on rehabbing?
I
that,
haven't
or-
addressed that yet, so
Okay.
we'll make that a part of our, moving forward to address each one of those.
All right.
Yeah.
And
Don't
then-
we expect though that replacement of that line that we're gonna replace,
That should take
That
care of a
should be a
huge
major
chunk,
impact.
a major impact,
Yeah.
right, yeah. And so far, all the rains and, you know, if we back up in history, man, if we get a 1 or 2 inch rain, we'd go to 1 million gallons. So the lining that we did in the town so far has really helped immensely. Now, the other day, we did get a flow up, we went down, we diverted it, so you don't see the negative outcome, if you will, on the flow chart, because it goes into that tank and I pump it back over. So we're still getting INI, but not anything like we used to get, not even close.
Sorry to kind of belabor, I don't know, anyway,
Yeah.
belabor the point. On the report here, I just had a question about some abbreviations. On the last page, he talks about where DMR is reviewed as part of the inspection. Is that daily maintenance records, or?
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
guessing. Okay. Just wanted to check and see if that's what that was.
Yeah, it's just we have to log everything, so every time we're there, all the testing we do, everything has to get put onto a master list, and then that gets uploaded into that virtual file cabinet again. And then they have an additional sheet that has to be filled out that we sign off on. So there's MRO, your monthly operating report, and then the DMR is actually the finalization part of it.
All right. And then, earlier you were talking about the auger monster with George and
Yeah,
the
we're
freezing
trying,
problem?
yeah. So last time, we only had one cold spell so far, but it did freeze up on us when it got cold. So I called the company. they wanted outrageous amount of money to create some kind of a system that would go around it. It was like $25,000. So it's like, no, we don't get that much code. So they said what they would recommend is to change the pipe structure from actually having an angle to it to a drop down, which will take care of one part of it. The other part is the pipe itself that actually goes up, that deposits the stuff down into a trash bin to keep it from freezing up. We're creating our own design, if you will. We're gonna wrap some,
With like heat tape around it or?
that's what we're creating, but
Yeah.
the heat tape's permanent to where instead of being electricity, it's just gonna be the water, and we're gonna recirculate the
Yeah.
water. And,
By tomorrow,
huh?
by Saturday.
Yeah, James is, and he was down there today actually working on it. So we're hoping before this 4 degrees hits, -4,
Yeah.
and it'll be a good test to see how well it works out.
Yeah.
So you're gonna use water to heat.
Yes. Hot water, because it's the water that's already coming through from the town that's already hot. And just keep it circulating, and it'll keep that from freezing up. Yeah, with a pump,
Famous last words.
yeah. But we're keeping our fingers crossed. It should work, which will save us, I don't want to have to spend $25,000 to only keep it from freezing up a couple times in the winter.
We have other bills.
Huh?
We have other bills.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we haven't had problems like this in the past, so.
Yeah, it always froze up. The old one, oh yeah, it was a nightmare.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. But I didn't want to fix it because it's like, yeah, we just dealt with it. We bypassed it. We'd freeze up and you couldn't use it. So then I would go back and use the old bar screen and still have to dig the stuff out. So
okay.
yeah, we've always had problems. We just didn't want to spend any money on that old one. It wasn't worth it.
Okay,
So I don't see it as that's not a crisis. It's just some paperwork we're gonna have to resolve somehow. But we should know.
yes.
Yeah.
This is the 7th report with my name on it
I
that says
know.
violations.
I
I
know.
want number 8 to
I
say
was-
no violation.
I was so happy because he sold it up. He was happy. Everything was good. It was all good. Right, Mindy? He did. He says, I'm happy. Everything looks good. I'm like, good. We're gonna get a double thumbs up.
Mr. Palin said that?
Yes.
And then he went and wrote this?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that was not at all his attitude when he
Uh-uh.
was speaking with us.
No.
Talking out both
That
sides of
he
their
is
mouth.
really a very
Okay,
different person
Yeah.
in person.
all right.
It didn't come out that way.
Hopefully, our next inspection
Will.
will have 0.
There should be nothing. There's nothing you can complain about, but
That's good.
They'll find something.
it's their job to find stuff.
Well, sure.
So they'll
Yeah,
change
I
it.
mean,
Just
Yeah.
like an auditor,
It's
it's their
the-
job to find you doing
Right.
something
And
wrong.
if they can't, they'll, twist it. So in regards to the school, just so we kind of have it documented and on the records for this, so I'm monitoring, and that was part of the deal too. He said, because that's part of our collection system, that's gonna have to be constantly monitored. So starting to record stuff out there now every day as to how much flow's coming through, how many hours are on the pumps and everything. And what I've noticed so far is we've been running about 8 to maybe 10,000 gallons a day. But yesterday, was it yesterday when we had that rain? Day before yesterday? we pumped 48,000 gallons over here. So we went from 8 to 10 to 48,000.
Just from the school?
in the brand new system that they
Yeah.
just put in?
Yeah,
Where's
they
that
have
coming from?
I&I.
Well, I think they have I&I there at the
They have
location, and
I&I.
we had noticed it before when I was actually just running the facility, but it wasn't as predictable or easy to see because the water came into a bucket, you pumped out of the bucket to get it to go through the system, and you didn't see spikes like that.
Well, then, won't
But
that
since
be the-
we're coming through and we're pumping it over here, I can actually quantify it.
Well, that'd be the school would have to rectify that.
Yeah, so I talked to them on that today and said, I'll keep an eye on this, and if it, at another rain event it goes up, we'll have to probably address that.
Shut it off.
Uh-huh.
Have to shut them off.
Yeah.
So-
That's a brand new system. How does
Yeah.
it have I&I? I thought I&I was because it gets old and things start leaking.
I don't think I don't see it as well, it has to come from it's not,
It's
it's
from their
before.
infrastructure.
yeah, it's not here.
Yeah.
It's not leaking from there to here because I don't measure that part of it. I'm measuring it at the facility out there. So the water actually came into that
Right,
pit.
so the force, pump for the force main
Yeah, it's all
is
good.
picking up 48,000 gallons of water in a big rain, whereas normally it's 8 to 10,000 gallons.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
As measured at that facility.
And they weren't draining the swimming pool to put more.
No, I don't think so.
Maybe they are.
You know,
Maybe the school has their gutters going
Yeah.
down.
They've had problems before, which we've identified, where somebody would leave a sink run or a toilet, got jammed up or something, because you can add up some serious water there pretty quick. So we'll just stay in the loop on it, but
Okay.
just to let everybody know that
Yeah, not 40,000 gallons. 40,000
gallons. Yeah. Unless the meter lied to me, but I don't know. We'll keep an eye on it.
All right, any
More
other
questions?
questions for George?
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Chief Remender.
I got a couple things here. Just to let you guys know, starting March 1st, I'm going to do a reserve process. So try to get, I'll probably only hire one or two. It's a lot to train somebody. And normally to train somebody is roughly about 16 weeks at 40 hours. So you can imagine at a part-time status how long it'll take to train somebody. So I'll probably just start with one person, kind of get them in. But I'd like to increase the numbers a little bit to obviously increase the hours that we're doing in town. So, and they also, they've made it, we just have to jump through a lot of hoops anytime we hire somebody now, because this kind of like they did with us with the ordinance that we had to say how many reserves. They've also put some stipulations on me when I hire somebody. I just can't hire somebody. I got to jump through a lot of hoops, send some documents out to the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, and then they kind of put their stamp of approval on it as well. They're trying to have a little bit more oversight, I guess, on what we're doing. So looking to do that. So we'll start that actually March 1st. The new vehicle will be fully equipped with all the equipment this month. So we'll have everything in it, radar, computer, all the everything. So it'll be fully ready to go. The guys are using it somewhat now, but it just doesn't have the computer system in it. They have to do everything on the radio. Next thing I got is kind of looking ahead for this music in the park kind of thing. Kind of throwing it, for you guys, we're looking at 3 dates. Do we want to do more than that? It's kind of originally looking at June, July, and August. I'd like to really get Jenny those dates so I can lock down those
Yeah, 'cause I've already
and
got-
not wait.
I've got a couple in
Do you?
June and one in July already.
Okay.
Yeah, and you wanna try to set them on, like, maybe, not the day Plainfield's having their big festival, or Monrovia's got the fish
Got
fry,
their event,
fish
right.
fry this year, we run into two different things like that.
Right. I think the thing that we're going to try to, just for advertisement, is make those dates now, and then we can start advertising those as a series. When we do the initial first one, it's also going to have the other 2 dates, so that we can kind of put that out there and kind of give people a heads up. A lot more people, like all the folks that did the Christmas event, have reached out and said they were willing to help with these things too. Whatever they did had some really good success, so that might help us as well. I really think this music in the park thing can take off. It's a matter of picking some good dates. But we get a lot of really good feedback off of those things. And having a little bit of variety. I think our first one last year was a jazz band I thought was really neat, and then we kind of had some classic rock kind of music on the other ones.
That last group you had was really good. It was awful cold that day, but
It was, yeah. So that's kind of what my original thought is, thinking June, July, and August, doing a date in there. And then I'll kind of do a little research to see. We've kind of tentatively thought the 14th, 19th, and 16th. So it'd be the 14th of June, 19th of July, 16th of August. It's preliminary.
Evenly spaced out too.
Yeah.
All right.
Good?
Sounds like-
Sound good? Good. The next thing is just want to let you all know that we just really have increased. I actually have some business checks, but we got the new liquor store in town. But we're just got the guys are really in the evenings doing a lot more business checks. We're trying to be present when the grocery store closes. She really appreciates that when we're there. I'm not sure on the hours of the liquor store yet, but we're out trying to rattle doors, making sure nobody businesses are open, that kind of thing. Our rash of it was mostly vehicle break-ins that we had there. The month of November was pretty rough, but those guys are still down in Morgan County, and we still got our finger on the 2 other kids that were kind of involved in some of that. Really has gone down to 0. We haven't had any break-ins last month, so good thing. That's all I have, actually, guys.
All right, I have a couple questions.
What you got?
So, on the municipal chatter, that just people in the state ask questions of other
Right.
municipalities and stuff, and everybody gives their 2 cents worth and stuff. But there was some talk about body cameras for police officers,
Okay,
and
yep.
police officers wearing them. I don't know what your experience has been with that. If you know, there's something that you feel a need for, or that in the future you think this would be a you know, an ideal thing for the town of Clayton Police, or not. I mean,
So I'm in favor of body cameras. So on my other agency, full-time agency, I have a body camera. They're very expensive. So roughly, so what we obviously couldn't afford them for everybody. They're that expensive. We would have probably have like four, you'd want at least 4 sign up for the reserves, the full-timers to actually have a body camera. Unless you can afford it. But so at my other agency, just for my division, I've got 10 guys, and we're talking like $200,000. And it's that storage that is ridiculous. Sometimes they're even giving you some of the equipment free, but that storage is ridiculously expensive. I'm in favor of body cameras because I think that it protects us more than anything. Most of the complaints I've had in my career have been false. And then you tell them you have the video. Hey, I'd love to set up an appointment with you. Come in and we'll review the video together. And they don't show up for the appointment. So it does, from a liability standpoint, it really does protect us. So I'm in favor of them. I think it's something that we're probably going to be required to have down the road. So kind of what I said with the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, kind of putting some of these things out. They're starting to now overwrite our policies, so that the state has a use of force policy that supersedes what ours is. I think that you're going to see that. They're going to say every law enforcement officer in the state of Indiana has to have a body cam. One thing that I would say with that is I could potentially reach out to some of these other agencies and see if they've got some older equipment. The thing is, we're not going to have the storage because we don't take the run load, so you don't need some really super expensive unit, but I could reach out and see if somebody's willing to donate some.
Do you think if that happens that there will be some kind of state funding that would accompany that?
No, I personally don't know. No, I think they'll make us eat it.
Okay.
There are grants, and that's something that I could look at.
like a FEMA grant or a
Yes, yes.
private
Yeah, kind of what, I still have a radio that I've hopefully going to get under a grant that I did with the Hendricks County Emergency Management that we still might get.
And the storage you're talking about is this video
That
storage?
cloud, yeah.
Of, when the camera's active? and
Yeah,
then
because
retaining it.
you have to retain it for so long. That's the problem. You got to retain it for years.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Your basic, just simple stuff is basically like a 90-day storage, and then it can go away. But that other stuff you got to keep for years on your criminal stuff. But yeah, I think it's something that I think it's something we should have.
In the discussions on the network, it was kind of all positive about getting them. Was some of them were they comparing the different costs and stuff, and some
Okay,
were
yeah.
super expensive, and
Yep.
some weren't so bad, but, you know,
Right.
then you had to sacrifice some things like, you know, amount of time that you kept the video and that kind of
Right.
stuff. But-
You can get them probably pretty reasonable too, where it's just, the storage is maybe in the unit.
That
And,
still has to be archived and backed up.
correct, that's exactly right, yes. Yes, so that would be probably more of a download, that you would go, okay, that's something I need to keep, I could download it. And you're probably only talking, you know, a couple $1,000s to outfit everybody.
But something to think about.
It is, it
In
really,
the future, we have to start
definitely,
planning or thinking about, yeah, when is this gonna become a budget item that we have to have?
yeah,
If not, you know,
yes,
next year or in the next
very soon.
5 or 10 years.
It also builds transparency, so some people don't trust us, and so it builds transparency. Here it is, and we can show that video. So that's one of the things from a management standpoint I like as well. Because otherwise, you're taking what your officer said versus what somebody else is saying.
Now, the evolution of this, it started out as dash cams. Are dash cams
They're still,
less expensive, or are they?
they
something
are
that-
less expensive.
I mean, is that?
What I would say is,
An idea of getting a dash cam for your vehicles and then move.
I would say spend the money on the officer, because everywhere I go, the body cam goes. Everywhere the car goes, I don't go.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So like, I get in a foot pursuit, my dash cam's still on the car, it's not on me. So my experience has been, I would get the one that's on the officer, because it goes everywhere. Even during a pursuit, it's still visible to the front.
All right, thank you. Any other questions on that? It's permits for the speed limit signs on 39. So, the guy from the DOT was in town taking pictures of them, and he sent them to me. He didn't say anything about it, he just took pictures of them.
Oh.
And it still says on the site that my permit expired a year ago. So they didn't obviously accept my renewal request, but they also didn't say,
Take them
hey,
down.
take them down. So I don't know, I mean, I'm almost like, of the
Push
belief,
our luck.
it's, yeah, better to ask forgiveness than permission.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna say anything until
Did they not renew the request, or did
Correct.
they just didn't respond to you about the renewal?
they didn't respond or change, I mean, so on the permit website, the permit request website, they have kind of this, tracking of, you know,
The process.
here's the process, right, here's where we uploaded all the documents, here's where they approved the permit, you know, back in 2022. Here's when they told me last year, on the 14th of January last year, your permit's expired. And then my reapplication, I said, can I extend this permit? And I put all the same details in on what I wanted.
Uh-huh.
So no response until today. The guy took a picture of both signs. So he was here in town, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, took pictures of both signs, uploaded them. Again, didn't say anything about it, but, so I don't know what's gonna happen with that, but, you know, we had talked a little bit about somebody from your office, one officer or something, taking over that process of being responsible for that permit.
Permit,
and
right,
What happens
yes.
to the signs and stuff, which would be great.
Yes,
If, we can meet sometime,
okay,
you know, in the next month or two and
okay.
go through
Yep.
how to work through that, on the, NDOT site. I mean, it's a lot of busy work,
Yeah,
but
nope, we'll do
it
it.
seems like it would be something that, you know, would be helpful for somebody at one of your
Right,
officers or
yep.
somebody in your office to.
Yeah, I already
handle
talked to, actually,
the-
Mike was the guy that said
Okay.
he'd be willing, he's really good with
So we'll
that.
see where that goes. Like I
Okay.
said, I'm not gonna say anything to them unless they say something first, so I'm just gonna leave
Yep.
the signs up until they say, hey, these are supposed to have been down a year ago.
Okay,
Oh, sorry.
right.
Get 'em.
Sounds good.
And then, my last question is U-turns on busy streets. And I know in some towns you see signs, no U-turn here. Is that something that, just an individual municipality makes that rule on no U-turns in a certain area, or is that are
So-
there state rules about, especially a busy state road?
So U-turns are legal in Indiana unless it's posted.
Okay,
And that's why then you see the postings.
alright. I look out the window from my shop every day and see people making U-turns, and people are
There's not
trying to
room.
make, left turns from that, and there's somebody making a U-turn right in front of them, or something like that, so I just didn't know what,
Yep. Yeah, we could put signs up, no U-turns. And then if they make a U-turn and it's still unsafe, we could actually still make a traffic stop off that.
So if you were to witness somebody making a U-turn, even without a sign
And if it was
up,
unsafe,
if
it
it was
would,
an unsafe
yep.
move. you
unsafe
could
lane
cite them
movement
for-
is what we would call that. Yep. Yep. Because there's not a solid line through there, is there? If there's a solid line, they couldn't do it either. Trying to
Well,
think
the-
what's
if
through
there's
there.
further-
Line, and they
There's
do it,
no
but it's
line.
still illegal, right?
So if there's no line, you could do it unless it was posted that you couldn't do it.
But if there's a solid yellow line.
Then you couldn't do it because now you're crossing a
Yeah.
solid
There's
yellow
a solid
line.
yellow line from Michigan all the way
All
to
the
the
way.
four-way stop.
That's what I thought. So that would actually be illegal
There's
in
a,
there.
the solid yellow line goes all the way
So,
through.
so you
town.
wouldn't even need technically a sign to say no U-turns unless you're just having a problem and you're trying to remind them, but it would be an illegal turn then.
Okay. I know from one of the programs Pete and I went to in Plainfield a couple of months ago, to talk about pavement asset management and the community crossing matching grant stuff, and they talked about, just the state of Indiana doing more traffic studies and things, and they had a website they gave us, and it just showed the amount of traffic coming through Clayton on 39 on that website just as
Pretty
exponentially
Increase.
zoomed up. So I just thought, with some of that information and what I witness every day sitting out here and watching people, I mean, this section of 39
Right.
is
Right.
sometimes crazy dangerous because of people making U-turns.
U-turns,
or,
yeah.
People semis having to back up because another semi is trying to make a left-hand turn and can't make it.
Yep.
Doesn't have the room.
A lot of raised trucks, or not raised anymore, waste management trucks kinda, I do a lot of traffic on 39. It actually is very busy. All the time, it seems like. Doesn't really slow down.
Yeah.
And I try to sit out in front of your all's businesses over there, but it's if you can get a spot or not to try to get it from there.
Sure.
It's a little, because it's hard to find those spots where you can kind of get it, but
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
curious about
Yeah.
U-turns and if
Yep.
that was something that, we as a town needed to address or.
yeah, a sign would help probably to remind people not to do it. But that solid yellow makes it illegal.
Okay. Any other questions for Chief Remender?
Thanks,
Okay,
guys.
thank you, sir.
Thanks.
All right, shall we?
I'll have to go see if I can find one.
All right, while Jenny's finding that paper, does anybody else have any other information for the town council? All right.
Yeah, I got one question. On the new sewer pipe from Skirvin's house on over, if he don't sign the right of way, wants to use the right of way, can we still do that because that's a utility? Do we have utility right of way?
Well, what we're asking for is a new easement
Yeah.
because we're moving the pipe,
Yeah.
what, 10 feet north or
Yeah.
10? Is it 10 feet? So we're moving it to a spot where there isn't an easement. So, I mean, we'd have to talk to Graham about what the legal recourse is to move forward with that in the event. I mean, Mr. Skirvin's private property is his private property, and I don't think the town has the right to just say, oh, we're gonna just bulldoze over you and do it anyway. I think, we have to make sure that we're following the rules and going through the right steps and being, sensitive to what, is his property.
Is there
You know,
been
I wouldn't want somebody coming over to my house and saying, hey, we're gonna put in this new railroad right across your backyard, and you don't have a choice, so.
Has there been some change in status on that? Because I thought he was kind of on board with that.
I mean, I think he was, but I don't, I mean, that's changed, so he's now kinda going back and forth on that.
Backpedaling.
Right, he's-
Someone informed me he could get money for us to do that.
What did you do that for, John?
Wasn't me.
so, Pete's been working with him, trying to talk him off the ledge and get him, to go through the process, and,
He's supposed to got back with me a week or so ago, and he hadn't yet so far. Last time I talked to him, he said, I'll let you know in 2 or 3 days, and it was almost 2 weeks ago.
okay.
So,
Well,
I drive by his house to see if I can catch him outside, because I haven't seen him outside in quite a while, so I don't know is he sick? He's usually,
Usually comes to the meeting.
no, he's not here, so.
I know, I said usually he comes.
Yeah,
well, be, diplomatic,
yeah, oh,
but,
yeah.
go talk to him and see what's up. I mean,
Show up with
you've
him.
known Mr. Skirvin a long time, and
Yeah.
how to talk to him, and you
Yeah.
go
I
talk to him.
took care of the
as
east
a
end of that line.
one man to one man. So we just,
Yeah.
have a conversation, and again, with the understanding that, we know this is a tough decision, is that we're gonna dig a gigantic trench across his yard.
Right.
And, I mean, he's maintained a very nice yard and property for years.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And so it's not like, he just, some properties in town, they wouldn't even notice you dig across it because they've left it kind of, but
Well,
he doesn't do that.
I
He's
told him that,
meticulous
that they
and-
would put it back the way it was.
Yeah,
I think some of his concern is they might have to take some trees out, but we don't really know that yet,
right.
you know what I mean? I guess once we get a contractor in there, but we don't wanna do that till we got all the permissions first.
Right. Yeah, so we'll kind of work through this. All right, what do I need to do? Do I need to stand down here?
You do.
Okay. Raise my hand. It's like a buzzer game.
I, Doug Bignell,
I, Doug Bignell,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and I will faithfully,
and I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and diligently
and diligently
discharge my duties as a member of the Clayton Town Council,
discharge my duties as a member of the Town Council,
Clayton Town Council,
Clayton Town Council,
Town of Clayton, Indiana,
Town of Clayton, Indiana,
according to the law and to the best of my ability.
according to the law and the best of my ability.
There you go.
Thank you.
I guess I should have turned over there so you could have seen his
Well,
face.
I got John.
You want to do it again?
Is it your turn, Dan? Is it your turn?
No, I got sworn in down at the.
Oh, Doug.
That was because I
You
wasn't
saved
able
my
to.
place.
Yeah. Yeah, we went over to the courthouse, got sworn in.
Here, sign yours and then I'll wipe my part, your part out.
Oh. Well, you gotta keep an eye on me. Sorry. I didn't make it down to the courthouse that day. I was.
Well, it was a busy day probably in Miss
Yeah,
B's.
it was. All right. Did you have anything else for the town council?
I do
Jenny?
not.
All right. I have a consensus to adjourn.
Yes.
Did John have something while I was in there?
He
Because
did.
he always does.
Yeah.
He said he was talking about
Oh,
Mr. Skirvin's
that's
property
right,
and
that's
the
right. Yeah,
process.
that's okay.
He's like, what if we don't get permission? And so.
I'll just do this.
All right. At 8:49.